Weeding is an essential job in the garden, but it's best to think first of all, what is a weed? Well, a weed is classified as a plant in the wrong place, that's all. But not all weeds are bad. In fact, some of them have significant benefits in our garden, especially for wildlife. Dandelions, for instance. Now, they open flower very early in the spring and provide a vital food source for our bees before other flowers emerge. Not only that, but you can eat dandelions too. And not just dandelions, stinging nettles too. They deserve a place on our dinner plates to make incredible pasta packed with vitamins. Now, I don't like to use weed killers on my soil. I believe the soil is a living system, moving, changing and growing all the time, just like us humans. If I want to get rid of weeds, I do it by hand, thoroughly, trying to make sure they don't come back. Because there's two types of weeds, really. First of all, annuals, and in the name it suggests that they just live for a year. So effectively they're in the soil, but you can cut them away. And then there are perennials which live for longer. They have very, very tough root systems, enabling them to grow back if the heads are taken off. Now, you need to dig up the perennials and take as much root as you can to stop them coming back. Or sometimes if you've got younger perennials and annuals and you're chopping the top off, you're taking away the plant's energy to be able to photosynthesize, produce food to go down into the roots to continue to grow. So if you've got young weeds and annuals in the soil, you can use a hoe. Now, there are a few different styles of hoe to get the job done, each one designed slightly differently to benefit you in a variety of different ways. Now, this one here is in fact a carbon steel draw hoe, and draw hoes are intended for use on particularly, I suppose, heavy soils or hard soils to work on, and the hint for how to use them, well, it's in the name. You're supposed to draw it, hence the term draw hoe. Draw it towards you in a pulling motion. So the paddle meets the handle here at 90-degree angle. So it can also be used for chopping up and down, especially for any stubborn clumps of soil. For those large-scale cultivating tasks, the draw hoe is perfect to use. The flat blade of the panel can be drawn towards you through the surface of the soil, which also severs any weeds at the neck that they come across. The shape of this makes it a great option for creating small trenches to be used as seed drills in your garden, just by using the corner of the blade and pulling it towards you. Then, once you put all your seeds in place, you can use the draw hoe again to pull the soil back over the top of the seeds to cover them. It's really, really helpful. You can use it also to just use the corner to get underneath some of those perennial weeds and lift out the root system as well. So the draw hoe is a pretty good piece of kit. You can use it to cultivate the soil, sever the heads off weeds and also create seed drills too, and it's pretty good on a wide variety of soils. Okay, let's look at the next one. Now, this one here is called a stirrup hoe, and it looks quite different to a draw hoe. If you look at them side by side, instead of being designed for just one pulling motion, the stirrup hoe is on a hinge, which means you can use it for a push and a pull motion, rocking it back and forth. And this back and forth motion makes a stirrup hoe a perfect choice if you have a big weeding job to carry out in your borders. Because you can cut in both directions in short motions, you can eliminate weeds by severing them in a very short period of time. The hinge gives the blade more room for motion whilst in use, which makes it more efficient tackling those stubborn weeds. Now, there's two trains of thought here. With the weeds that you've hoed up, you can put them in your compost heap to break down into nutrient-rich compost. Other people prefer not to put their weeds back in their compost heap and instead put them in the wheelie bins to be recycled and taken away by the council. Well, really there, the choice is yours. Okay, let's have a look at the final hoe. Now, the last garden hoe that I have here is in fact carbon steel Dutch hoe. And the blade of the Dutch hoe is in fact a D shape with a gap here in the centre. And the Dutch hoe cuts through the soil in a push and pull motion, very much like the Stirrup Hoe, but it isn't on a hinge, so it gives you a bit more of a driving force. As you push and pull it through the surface of the soil, the blade can cut through the weeds quickly and efficiently. And then, of course, they usually filter through the centre gap or just be cast to the side. Make sure any weed remains are left on the surface for easy disposal, so you can collect them all up and get rid of them as you wish. Now, this hoe is intended to be used in an upright manner, and you're aerating the soil, allowing water deeper into the ground. And you can also use the corner of it to get down underneath some of the tougher weeds and take out a bit more root. And much like the draw hoe, the Dutch hoe is pretty good for creating a seed drill trenches as well, by just using the corner just to pull a line like this. Try to weed and get as much of the root out as possible, whatever happens, and leave some dandelions to flower early on in the year to support the pollinators. But if you want to weed quite a large area, it's always best to leave some areas to go a little bit wild to support the wildlife there. Each of these AMES weeding tools have been designed for comfort and ease of use, with their extra long handles and of course their cushion rubber grips at the end, which are very comfortable. And it's designed with this in mind, to ensure you do not strain your back whilst using them. It's always best to keep upright when you're using tools anywhere. Their carbon steel heads are rust resistant, and the handles themselves are made from ash, so it's a very high quality and will last for years. Make sure you keep your annual weeds at bay and take up as much root as possible with your perennial weeds. And if you're using weeding implements like these to help you prepare the soil, you'll find it considerably easier and more efficient. A weed is only a plant in the wrong place. Please leave some patches in your garden to go wild, because it always helps the wildlife there. I've got to stress that point. Wildlife in the garden plays a significant part in the health of everything that grows. If you're taking control and removing the weeds, you're not letting weeds overgrow and spread. The weeds are not taking vital moisture and food from the soil, so it'll help the plants that you've got growing grow even better. For more handy hints and tips on how to control the weeds in your garden, and to find out your nearest stockers of AMES tools, just follow the link below.